Hey, what's up everyone? Today we're going to do fractions to decimals, decimals to fractions. This time we're going to go from decimals to fractions. And you have 8 questions here where you need to change these decimals into fractions. So the question says, write the following as fractions in simplest form. So if this is something you have trouble with, make sure you watch this video right now. What I'll encourage you to do is to just look at these questions and pause the video, try and do them on your own, and then we'll do them together. Okay, so I hope you paused the video and I hope you tried. Now, the main skill here is always to rearrange and to find common factors in the numerator and the denominator. So the first skill is, how do you set it up as a fraction? So we're going to do that with the first question, 0.8, which is actually 8 divided by 10. And so here you notice that 8 is divisible by 2, 10 is divisible by 2. So you can say, okay, well, this is 4 over 5, right? And this is how you should do the first question. Second question, there are 2 decimal points. So for 2 decimal points, you need to say, okay, I'm going to multiply this by 100 to get it back into whole numbers. So I'm going to say this is 49 out of 100. Now, 49 is 7 times 7, and 100 is 2 times 2 times 5 times 5. So there's no common factors between 49 and 100. So this is actually the simplest form. Okay, so far we've done 2. 85 thousandths. This is in the thousands. It's 3 decimal points in. So this is what you should do. You should do 85 over 1,000 to scooch it over 3 times. Now 85 over 1,000, you know that the top is definitely divisible by 5. And if you know how to divide by 5, 85 divided by 5 is 17. And if you don't know how to do that, all I'm doing right here is multiplying by 2. I'm doing 8.5 times 2, make my life easy. And 1,000 divided by 5 is 200. So I'm just going to say that's like 17 over 200. And the reason why I know that that's good is because 17 is prime. So because 17 is a prime number, I'm not going to be able to go much further than this. Okay, so we're doing pretty good. I've got 64, which is in the thousandths again. So it's 64 with 3 decimal points over 1,000. Now 64 is definitely divisible by 2, but it's also divisible by 4. It's 4 times 16. It's also divisible by 8 because it's 8 times 8. And now I think about the denominator. What's the biggest number, the biggest power of 2 that I can divide 1,000 by? Well, 1,000 is divisible by 4, that's 250. But it's also divisible by 8 because 8 times 125 is 1,000. So this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to divide top and bottom by 8. So this is 8, and then the bottom becomes 1,000 divided by 8, which is 125. So 125 times 8 is 1,000. Okay, the next one is in the hundredths. So that shouldn't be too bad. I should just say 88 over 100 and see what I end up with. Okay, I can divide top and bottom by 4 for sure. I don't know that I can divide the bottom by 8 because 100 divided by 8 is 12.5. So it's not the same thing this time. But I can definitely divide it by 4. And if I divide by 4, I end up with 22 up top and 25 at the bottom. And that's good enough. 0.25, if I know my fractions of a unit, I should know that this is actually just a quarter. So I'm just going to say that 0.25 is a quarter. Or you could say it's 100. You can multiply the top and the bottom by 100. You say 25 over 100 and then divide top and bottom by 25. You could do that, but most importantly, you should know that 0.25 is a quarter. Okay, this one's going to get a little bit dicier. You could say 3 and 72 hundredths. You could do mixed numbers here, but I think that the question says fractions specifically. It doesn't say mixed numbers. So because it says fractions, I'm just going to go 372. So 372 over 100. And then now I'm going to ask myself, okay, so 372, I can definitely divide that by 4. 100, I can divide that by 4. How do I know that? Well, for a number to be divisible by 4, the last 2 digits have to be in the 4's times tables. So 72 happens to be in the 4's times tables. And if you need to think about it, 72 is 8 less than 80. You know that 4 times 20 is 80, right? So 8 less than 20 would be 18. So 18 times 4 is 72. And that's going to be important here because you'll need that number. So 18 times 4 is 72. So I worked from 80 and I realized I was 8 away from 80, and I did 8 divided by 2, which is 2, and then 20 minus 2 is 18. So I know that 18 times 4 is 72. And then if I look at the 300, 300 is 150 and then 75 when I divide it by 4. So I can halve it and halve it, but really it's 75 times 4. So I have 75 times 4 to get me to 300, and 18 times 4 to get me to 72. So I can do 75 plus 18, which is 93. So this is dividing by 4, right? And then at the bottom, I can do 100 divided by 4, which is 25. Now, 93 is divisible by 3, for sure. It's 31 times 3, and 31 is prime. 25 is 5 times 5. So there's no common factors between 93 and 25 here. Okay, good. Now I can do 0.625, which is in the thousandths. So this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to do 625 over 1,000. Now 625 is divisible by 5 for sure. It's also divisible by 25. In actual fact, 625 is 25 squared. It's 25 times 25. Again, it helps to know, what numbers are made of. So if I do 625 divided by 25, I end up with 25. And if I do 1,000 divided by 25, well, I know that 100 divided by 4 is 25. So 1,000 divided by 25 is going to be a 4 with a 0 behind it, which is 40. And so I could then divide by 5 again here. And this is going to be 5 over 8. Divide top and bottom by 5. I could have gone faster with this question, realizing that the top and the bottom are both divisible by 125. So 625 divided by 125 is 5, and 1,000 divided by 125 is 8. That would have been the best way to do that question. I hope this was useful. So what are we doing here? We're doing some amazing shortcutting by knowing arithmetic really well, by knowing how to multiply numbers and how numbers work with each other. So I hope this was useful. I hope you found it interesting and it helps you at school converting fractions to decimals and the other way around. We'll have to do some sheets doing the fractions to decimals as well. Most importantly here, it's not just about writing it out as a fraction and then dividing by 2, dividing by 2, dividing by 2. The best way to do this is to have a good understanding of divisibility rules and to have a good understanding of not just your times tables, but number theory. You realize things like multiplying by 5 and dividing by 5 is super important. So I encourage you to go look at some of my other videos to understand how we use number theory to multiply numbers, to divide numbers, to find divisibility rules, and so on. So super cool. Thank you so much for doing this. Subscribe to the channel. Make sure you follow us and support us so that we can support you in your mathematical journey. And I'll sign out now and wish you a beautiful day at school. See you next time.